Hi everyone, this is the Nordic Venture Show, your guide to the exciting world of Nordic startups and venture capital. In today's episode, we're exploring a startup called Haltian.
Okay, so get this. Imagine a workspace, right, that's so in tune with you, it's almost like it can read your mind.
Whoa.
We're talking a space where data doesn't just drive efficiency, it actually makes your day better. So that's what we're diving into today.
Sounds pretty futuristic.
It does, but it's closer than we might think, honestly. We're taking a deep dive into Haltian,
Yep.
a Finnish company that's all about creating smarter spaces using the Internet of Things, IoT.
Right.
Transforming everything from offices and warehouses to hospitals into these super efficient, intuitive environments. And their motto is, because every space can work better, which I just love.
Yeah, it really sums up their ambition.
It does.
And the fascinating part is they're tackling some very specific problems that I think make a huge difference in how these spaces actually function.
So, what kind of problems are we talking about?
Well, let's start with something we've all experienced.
Okay.
That frustrating moment when you're wandering around the office, desperately trying to find an available meeting room or even just an empty desk.
Ugh, tell me about it, especially when you're already running late.
Right, exactly. So Halton's occupancy management system completely eliminates that problem. Imagine sensors that track which spaces are being used in real time, so you can instantly see what's available.
So no more wasted time searching for a spot. I like it.
Exactly. And they're not just optimizing space.
Right.
They're thinking about your well-being, too.
Oh, okay.
Think about those environmental sensors and indoor air quality sensors they're using.
Okay.
These things are constantly monitoring the air you're breathing, making sure it's clean and fresh.
That's a huge deal. Okay, I never realized how much thought goes into creating a healthy and productive workspace. So they've got sensors for air quality, occupancy. What else is on their list of solutions?
Well, if you look at their website, it's quite extensive.
Okay.
They have remote building monitoring, equipment tracking, and even something called an empathic building.
Hold on. Empathic building. Now that's something I need to hear more about. What on earth does that mean?
It's pretty fascinating. Halton is recognizing that with so many people working remotely or on hybrid schedules, we're missing out on those spontaneous interactions that used to happen naturally in the office. Those chance encounters by the coffee machine that could spark a great idea.
Totally. Those moments are so valuable, but how can you engineer that kind of serendipity into a building?
That's where the empathic building comes in. They're using sensors and data to understand how people are actually moving and interacting within a space. And then they use that information to adjust things like lighting, temperature, even the availability of certain areas, all to subtly encourage those chance encounters.
Wow, so the buildings is almost anticipating our needs and nudging us towards those connections. That's incredible.
It is, and it really highlights how Halton's approach goes beyond simple efficiency.
Right.
They're considering the human element, creating spaces that are not only functional, but actually foster collaboration and well-being.
This is blowing my mind. It's like they're combining data and design to create a whole new kind of workspace.
Exactly. They're not just throwing tech at a problem. They're thinking deeply about how it can be applied to improve people's lives.
Okay, so we've got a good sense of what Haltian does and the problems they're solving, but how is this actually playing out in the real world? Are there examples of their technology already in action?
Absolutely. Some of their client stories are amazing. For instance, they worked with a company called Tehotech.
Okay, tell me more. What was the situation with Tehotech?
Well, Tehotech was struggling with the challenge of managing their machines remotely, you see.
Okay.
They needed a way to keep track of performance, predict when maintenance was needed, and basically keep everything running smoothly, even when they weren't physically present.
I can see how that would be a headache, especially if something goes wrong and you have no idea until it's too late.
Exactly. And that's where Halting came in. They implemented a tailored IoT solution that allowed Tehotech to remotely monitor their machines in real time.
So,
Imagine every piece of equipment essentially had its own little voice reporting back on its status and needs.
wow, so they're giving these machines a way to speak and tell us what they need, even from far away. That's brilliant.
It is, and the results were impressive.
Okay.
Tehotech was able to significantly reduce downtime, optimize machine performance, and ultimately save a lot of money.
It's amazing how something as simple as a sensor can have such a huge impact on a business's bottom line.
It really is, and it's not just about machines. They also worked with O2 Telefonica.
Oh, I've heard of them. Huge telecom company, right? What were they looking for?
Well, after the pandemic, O2 Telefonica was facing a common problem: how to get people back into the office and interacting with each other in a meaningful way.
Right.
They were specifically worried about missing out on those spontaneous brainstorming sessions and creative collaborations that happen when people are physically together.
Yeah, that makes sense. So many companies are grappling with that right now.
Yeah.
The work from home revolution definitely had its perks, but it's hard to replicate that in-person energy.
Right. And that's where Haltian stepped in with their concept of the empathic building, which we touched on earlier.
Okay.
They essentially designed and implemented a workspace that encourages those chance encounters and interactions that O2 Telefonica was so worried about losing.
So it's almost like they're engineering serendipity into the workplace. That's fascinating.
It is, and what's even more interesting is that Haltian took a very human-centric approach.
Okay.
It wasn't just about cramming people into a room. It was about creating a space that felt welcoming, intuitive, and conducive to those organic interactions.
That's a really important point. You can have all the technology in the world, but if the space itself doesn't feel good, it's not going to work.
Exactly. It's about creating a balance between the digital and the physical, the functional and the emotional.
These stories are really eye-opening. It seems like Halton isn't just a one-trick pony. They're taking on such a diverse range of challenges, from remote machine monitoring to fostering in-person collaboration. What trends are you seeing emerge from these examples?
Well, one clear trend is this focus on data-driven decision-making.
Okay.
Both Tehotech and O2 Telefonica are using the data collected by Haltian's technology to make more informed choices about how they manage their spaces and their workforce. It's not about guessing anymore. It's about having the insights to make the best possible decisions.
That's a powerful shift, but how does Halting actually make all this happen? What's the tech behind the magic?
That's a great question, and one we'll explore in more detail after a quick break. Stay tuned.
Okay, I'm already on the edge of my seat. We'll be right back to peek under the hood and see what makes Halting tick. All right, we're back, and I'm ready to get a little geeky here. We've talked about the what of Haltian solutions, but now I want to know the how. What's the technology that makes all this magic happen?
Well, it's not exactly magic, but it's definitely clever engineering. Remember all those sensors we discussed?
Yeah.
Think of each one as a tiny data reporter, constantly gathering information and sending it back to a central hub.
Okay, I can picture that little reporters running around taking notes on everything from air quality to which meeting rooms are in use.
Exactly. And the way they communicate is through what's called a mesh network.
Okay.
Now, imagine this network as a sophisticated walkie-talkie system. So each sensor can talk to its neighbors, and those neighbors can relay the message on creating multiple paths for the data to travel.
So even if one sensor goes down or the connection is weak in one area, the information can still get through. It's like a built-in backup system.
That's a great way to put it. That's what makes the mesh network so robust and reliable. You see, in a traditional network, all the data has to flow through a single central point. If that point fails, the whole system goes down. But with a mesh network, there are multiple routes for the data to take, making it much more resilient.
I'm starting to see how this all comes together. So we have these sensors gathering data, sending it through this super reliable network, and then what happens to all that information?
That's where the building data reports come in.
Yeah.
Now, I know the term reports might not sound super exciting,
I was going to say, it sounds a bit dry.
but bear with me. These reports are actually incredibly valuable because they give us a way to see how the space is being used in a way we never could before they reveal patterns and insights that would be completely hidden otherwise. For example, let's say the building data reports show that a particular meeting room is consistently booked but hardly ever used.
Okay, I've definitely been in those ghost meetings. What could you do with that information?
That's the exciting part. Armed with this knowledge, you could repurpose that space, maybe turned into a collaborative work area or a quiet zone for focused work.
Yeah.
Or maybe the reports show that certain areas of the office are consistently overheated that could indicate a problem with the HVAC system that needs attention.
So instead of just reacting to problems as they come up, you can proactively address them, even anticipate them before they become major issues. That makes a lot of sense, like having a sixth sense for your workspace.
Exactly. And remember how we talked about Haltian being committed to sustainable and empathic spaces? Well, this is where that commitment really shines through, by analyzing the building data. You can optimize energy consumption, improve air quality, and create a more comfortable and productive environment for everyone.
And when you think about the Works with Well trademark, they have it all starts to click into place.
You're right that trademark is a really big deal. It means Haltian's products and solutions are specifically designed to support the principles of the well building standard.
You're going to have to refresh my memory on that. What exactly is the well building standard?
Think of it like LEED certification, but instead of focusing solely on environmental sustainability, well is all about human health and well-being within the built environment. So we're talking about things like air and water quality, lighting, thermal comfort, even access to nature and healthy food choices.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's a holistic approach to creating spaces that are good for both people and the planet.
Exactly. And the Works with Well trademark means Haltian has gone through a rigorous process to demonstrate that their technology aligns with these principles. So when you see that trademark, they're not just paying lip service to well-being, they're actually walking the walk.
This is a lot to take in, but I'm loving it. We've got the data gathering sensors, the super reliable mesh network, the insightful building data reports, and this overarching focus on human well-being. It's all starting to make sense, but we haven't talked about IoT device management yet. What does that entail?
That's an essential part of the whole system. Think of it as the control center for all those little data reporters we talked about. IoT device management is what allows Haltian to remotely monitor all the devices in a network. They can make sure they're functioning properly, push out software updates, even troubleshoot issues, all from a central location.
So it's like having a team of tech wizards behind the scenes, making sure everything is running smoothly.
Exactly. And of course, with all this data flying around, security is paramount.
You're telling me data breaches are a huge concern these days. How does Haltian address that?
They've put a huge emphasis on privacy and security. They've implemented robust measures to protect user privacy and ensure that the data is handled ethically and responsibly. For instance, they use encryption to protect data in transit. And at rest, they anonymize data whenever possible. And they've implemented strict access controls to limit who can see what information. They're not just making buildings smart, they're doing it in a way that respects people's privacy and builds trust.
That's reassuring to hear. Now, we've covered a lot of ground here, but I have to ask, what makes Haltian stand out in the crowded world of IoT? I mean, there are a lot of companies out there claiming to do similar things, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there are several things that make Haltian unique. For one, they have a deep-rooted engineering culture. Their website even states, "True to our engineering core," which tells you they're committed to building robust, reliable technology.
Okay, so reliability is a big selling point. What else?
They're also incredibly adaptable and willing to tackle unique challenges. Remember how we talked about the empathic building for O2 Telefonica? That wasn't an off-the-shelf solution. It required a deep understanding of the client's needs and a willingness to push the boundaries of what's possible with IoT.
That kind of creative problem solving is definitely a differentiator. Anything else that sets them apart?
Well, their website mentions a project they did with a leading logistics company that needed an IoT solution on an incredible scale. This tells us they're not just comfortable working with local businesses, they're ready to take on global-scale projects with massive scope and complexity.
Okay, I'm really starting to see what makes Haltian tick. They're reliable, they're innovative, they're committed to well-being, and they're not afraid of a challenge. That's a powerful combination.
It is, and it's likely what attracts clients like Tehotech and O2 Telefonica who are looking for partners who can help them navigate the increasingly complex world of IoT.
So we've gone from broad concepts to specific examples, understanding both the what and the how of Haltian's approach. But I'm curious, what does all this mean for the average person? Why should they care about what Haltian is doing?
That's a great question, and one we'll explore as we wrap things up in just a moment.
Okay, so we're back, and honestly, my mind is like buzzing, thinking about all this incredible technology that Haltian is developing.
It really is amazing.
It's not just about making buildings smarter.
Right.
It's about changing the way we work and live.
Yeah, it is.
So let's bring it home for our listener. Imagine, right?
Oh.
You walk into your office or even your home, and it's equipped with all this Haltian tech. What kind of impact would that have on your everyday life?
So picture this. You walk into your workspace and the temperature's perfect, the lighting's just right, and you never have to waste time hunting down an available meeting room.
That sounds pretty good to me.
The system guides you to the perfect spot, and you can breathe easy knowing that the air quality is constantly being monitored and adjusted.
Okay, so no more fighting over the thermostat or feeling stuffy in a crowded conference room.
Exactly. But it goes beyond just comfort. Imagine receiving personalized alerts about potential issues before they even become problems.
Okay, like what?
Like maybe a pipe is about to leak in the break room, or a piece of equipment is malfunctioning.
So it's like having a sixth sense for your surroundings.
Yeah,
You're informed and in control, which would definitely reduce stress and make for a much smoother day.
absolutely. And on a larger scale, think about the potential for sustainability.
Okay.
By monitoring energy consumption and optimizing building systems, Haltian's technology can significantly reduce our environmental impact.
Right.
It's a win for everyone.
It's mind-blowing to think that something as simple as a sensor can have such a ripple effect. And it makes me wonder, if we can create smart buildings, what about smart cities? Is that the next frontier?
It's a natural progression.
Yeah.
Imagine a city where traffic flows seamlessly because sensors are optimizing traffic lights in real time, or where waste management is streamlined, leading to cleaner streets and reduced pollution.
Okay, now you're talking about a whole new level of efficiency and sustainability. It's almost like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it feels within reach.
It is. And when you think about the concept of a digital twin, the possibilities become even more mind-boggling.
You're right, we touched on that earlier, but I want to hear more. How does this whole digital twin idea apply to buildings and cities?
It's all about creating a virtual representation of a physical asset, whether it's a building, a city, or even an entire transportation system. And this digital twin is constantly updated with real-time data from sensors and other sources, giving us an incredibly detailed and dynamic view of how things are functioning.
So it's like having X-ray vision into the inner workings of a complex system.
Exactly.
What kind of benefits could we see from that?
Well, for starters, it allows us to simulate different scenarios and test potential solutions without having to make changes in the real world.
Okay.
For example, we could use a digital twin of a city to model the impact of a new traffic flow pattern or the placement of a new park.
So it's like having a giant sandbox where you can experiment and find the best solutions before implementing them in the real world. That's incredibly powerful.
It is. And as the technology advances, we're going to see even more applications for digital twins. Imagine using them to predict and prevent equipment failures, optimize energy consumption, even personalize experiences within a building based on individual preferences.
This is all so fascinating, but I have to admit, like, a part of me wonders about the implications for privacy we're talking about collecting, like massive amounts of data about people's movements and behavior.
You're right to raise that concern. It's a crucial consideration. But that's why Haltian's focus on ethical data handling is so important. Remember, they're not just focused on collecting data, they're committed to using it responsibly and transparently.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how we use it and the values we embed in it.
Exactly. It's about creating a future where technology serves humanity, not the other way around. And that's why companies like Haltian, who are prioritizing these ethical considerations, are so important.
Well said. I think we've all learned a lot today about the power of IoT to transform our spaces and ultimately our lives. It's exciting and a little bit daunting all at the same time.
It is.
But one thing's for sure, the future is full of possibilities, and companies like Haltian are leading the way. So to our listener, the next time you walk into your office or any other space, take a moment to think about the unseen technology that might be working behind the scenes to make your experience just a little bit better.
You might be interacting with the Haltian system without even realizing it. And who knows, maybe someday you'll have your own personal digital twin helping you navigate this ever-evolving world.
That's it for our deep dive into Haltian. Until next time, stay curious.
Thanks for listening to the Nordic Venture Show. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories of innovation from the Nordics.